It's now only 64 days until our opening game in the World Cup against Haiti. So what have we learned in those last two friendly defeats that's going to set us up for victory against the Haitians? There's loads to get talking about, so let's get stuck in. This is the No Scotland No Party podcast, supported by Bobag's, official boxes of the men's national team. Let's go.
We know we ain't no football experts, but we all feel the same about the beautiful game, the game. No Scotland, no party, podcast for the Tartan Army.
Okay, everyone, welcome back, and I'm glad to say we'll get Hazel back with us today. Hazel, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'm glad to be back again.
Yes, it's good to see you. And Dave, ever-present Dave, how are you doing?
I'm fine, really good, thank you.
Yeah, now we don't have Craig with us again. He's still on his travels. Have you been keeping up to date with what he's up to, Dave?
I have, yeah. I'm watching. Yeah. I mean, it's the first thing that turns up on my Facebook feed every time, which tells you something, which is his daily updates, which are brilliant. And I suppose, probably most people watching this know that he's progressing across the US. He's now completed Colorado. He's now in Kansas. Which I don't think is going to be the most exciting state, to be honest, for him to be walking across. But anyway, but it seems like he's doing really well. The big news, obviously, is that he's hit his first target of getting over £100,000 in sponsorship, which is absolutely brilliant, right? And I think last time we talked about it and said, he was only on 50 or something then. So that's fantastic progress. He's over 100. And we just encourage everybody, please, anybody who can contribute, please do. The other thing which I've just heard just an hour or so ago is one of our viewers who I'm in touch with told me that he's booked a hospitality thing for some customers he's taking over for one of the World Cup games. And not actually a Scotland game, this one. It's in addition to the Scotland games. It's in Atlanta, and he's booked some hospitality with the Atlanta Braves, the baseball team, right? And he was telling the lady who's in charge there about what Craig's doing, and she said she's going to try and publicize him through the Atlanta Braves marketing operations. She's going to try and link in somehow with what Craig's doing. So we'll see whether anything comes of that, but obviously that's the kind of thing that suddenly you multiply out the number of people that are really interested, and therefore the number of people that are contributing. So let's hope that gives another boost to the sponsorship.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be brilliant. Yeah.
Okay, dokes. Right, well, We've just completed a couple of games there, another couple of losses, but let's try and stay positive as possible. Who do you think were the winners out of that game? Who played well? Is there any positives to take out of it?
So I think, first of all, right, I think that overall the two games, we were okay, right? We weren't brilliant. We were, it was disappointing that we didn't score, right? But we didn't get hammered in either of the games. We certainly weren't outclassed in either of the games. I thought the key point was, and probably it's because I went on about it before the games, to be honest. Okay, so maybe I saw what I was expecting or what I was fearing, but it's just the lack of creativity. Yeah, right. I think we're very easy to play against, to be honest. If other teams, not small teams really, but good teams, if they work out, that they need to stop McGinn, they need to stop McTominay, then I think we're pretty easy to play against mostly, right? So come to your question after that little digression or overview, but your question about who did I think were the winners from it. So honestly, I thought Kenny McLean in the game against Japan, and I've been a big critic of Kenny McLean in the past, right? But I thought he was, he started against Japan, and I thought he was really good. He was much better than I expected. He filled in a lot of the Gilmour role in that game against Japan, I'd say. And we know he was brought on as a substitute in the game against Ivory Coast. So I thought he was a winner. I agree with what Hazel just said in terms of Hendry and McKenna. Right, I thought both of them played well against Japan. I thought they were a good combination. We haven't seen Hendry that much, as you said, and I'd say both of them were winners as well. Other winners for me, so honestly, I know I made a bit of a joke about this last time, Craig, but Gannon Doak. And it links back, even, he wasn't in the squad, he obviously wasn't playing, but I think, again, the lack of creativity is so obvious. And it's, And it just says we've got, we really have got to hope that Gannon Doak is fit and on form for us. And I think, and going back to my earlier point, I think that he does make us much harder to play against. You've seen it with other teams, right? We saw it in the famous game against Croatia, and even in a lot of the qualification games. And I know we were brilliant actually after he went off against Denmark in terms of getting the result, but we've all talked about that, right? It was a combination of several things, including honestly quite a bit of luck that got us there in that game. So I'd say those were my winners. I'd say Kenny McLean surprisingly, Hendry and McKenna, and also Gannon Doak. Those are the ones I'd focus on as the positives.
I know third choice goalkeeper's not the biggest concern, but I think Bain did himself a lot of favours in that. I think he will. I think he solidified his place as third choice keeper ahead of Kelly.
That's fair. Yeah, I agree with that.
I interject here. You think Kelly is a good goalkeeper?
I've been saying for a long time that I wish Clark could be given a chance, because I thought he was good, but he was so disappointing, especially for that goal. The way he just looked at it, it was so disappointing.
Yeah, because I just thought he was really poor against Cote d'Ivoire. He just seemed to be like a statue.
Yeah,
he's
not getting game time.
Well, yeah, maybe, but he was like one of the Beatles statues on the on the second docks, the way he was watching that ball go in. But that's maybe it was just overwhelmed by the fact that, and maybe it was the fact we didn't have McKenna and Hendry out there. It's the usual.
Yeah,
because we had likes of McCrory and Hyam. But that's just
Kelly kind of brings us on to who didn't do themselves any favours, who perhaps will find themselves not going to the World Cup on the back of these last two games. Dave, have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it takes us into the whole discussion about the squad, really, Craig. I think that's the way to look at it, because so the squads are 26, right? So that's the rule. And the rule I've just checked earlier today, the rule is that the squad has to be announced by May 30th, which by coincidence is the day of our game against Curacao, right? And so effectively, whatever squad gets announced for Curacao, that's the World Cup squad. Okay. I mean, I know you could play a time difference game and all the rest, but we won't. So, I mean, that is going to be the squad. And the only thing is, if there's serious injury or illness, you can replace somebody in the squad up until one day before the first game. Okay. And the other thing FIFA said is you can take 9 other players with you, but they can't be part of the squad, I suppose, unless one of them comes in places somebody with illness or injury. Okay. So the squad is 20. So 26 is what we can do. And we're talking about Curacao, Bolivia, and then obviously the World Cup. We had a squad of 26 for these two friendlies. So I think the question, in terms of who didn't do well, it kind of it goes hand in hand with who might come in, right? And I think I think for this we have to assume that they're going to be fit, right? Because if we assume players are fit, then I think that Craig Gordon comes in, and I think Liam Kelly goes out. Okay, and that's what I would do, and it's what I think Clark will do.
I think you're right. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think so. Then, if you go on with the spirit of what you were saying, Craig, around who didn't do so well, but I think Hickey has to come in. Okay, assuming he's fit, and I know he's back now, at least in contention for Brentford again, and so on. So, and I think I'd say that McCrory and Patterson, they were both okay, I think, in the games they got, but I don't think either of them did so much that you'd say we're all right, and we'd rather have them than Hickey. I think it's obvious Hickey's got to come in.
Yep.
So the question probably is who goes out of one of those two. I think it's quite hard to say. I suspect it's McCrory who goes out, to be honest, but some of that's just because I think Clark, we all know Clark tends to stick with tried and tested people. this squad is, I mean, this squad's not, is probably not really a time for much experimentation, right? I mean, and certainly not at the back. So I think realistically, Clark's going to stick with who he knows, so, and who he's done well from in the past. So I think Ralston stays in as a right back. I think Hickey comes in, assuming he's fit, and then it's Patterson or McCrory. Because, you know, we know Tierney can switch to right back, but Clark hasn't bitten on that, so I guess he's not going to now. So probably I'd say McCrory goes out and Hickey comes in there. In terms of others, then, I mean, I think the squad, the defenders probably stay as they are. I'm a bit unsure about Hyam, whether Hyam stays in. So maybe, you know, I don't think, I mean, he was okay. Did he do enough to be convincing? You know, I'm not sure.
I think for that, Dave, I'm convinced he's going to have another left back in there. I think he's going. Tierney can do too many other things. He can play in the back three if need be. He can play in the right. He can play further up in midfield. I think having one other left back in there is a mistake. And I think Doig will probably make the squad at the expense of Hyam.
Okay, yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Doig had some good games, and we last year, if you remember, we talked about Doig. Why is he not playing? Why is he not playing? So I agree with that.
I think Harry Milne's in with a shout, but I don't think, because Clark hasn't looked at him, I don't think he will pick him.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. I mean, because he's not been involved, right?
Yeah.
So whereas at least Doig's been involved.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good call, and that's a very good point, Craig. If you move into the midfield, I'd say, you know, Andy Irving looks in trouble to me because he's not, you know, he's just not played enough for us. And so to me, if assuming Gannon Doak's coming back, then I'd say the first one who drops out is Andy Irving. I don't know if anybody else comes into the midfield. I mean, I don't know about Barron, for example, Craig. I know you've talked about him before. What do you think? Do you think he comes in, or?
I don't think he'll be much at club level, but I've just got a feeling Lennon Miller's not going to go. He didn't have a look at them in the two games, so I'm just wondering if he is going to be replaced by somebody. Who that would be, I don't know. We do have quite a lot of defensive midfielders, so there's nobody jumping out at me there. I mean, he's not going to. Well, do you know who he might play? And he shocked us with this in the Euros, was Lewis Morgan, because we don't have any backup or any other wide players. He could surprise us with Lewis Morgan coming in there.
Yeah.
For Miller.
I mean, it's a good call in terms of Lewis Morgan gives us a bit more creativity again, doesn't he? A bit more attacking threat.
But then why would you not have brought him in for the friendlies?
Yeah,
I'd love to know.
That's what we've said it a million times. You know, the time is use the friendlies to bring in people that give them a chance, especially against the likes of Japan and Côte d'Ivoire. You know, they are tough opponents. So he was trying to replicate what would effectively be Morocco and Brazil. Yeah. So
I agree. No, I mean,
you got to get these guys out there and really push them to the core, you know, to see what they can do. So I'm surprised Lewis Morgan was out.
I mean, the only thing with Lewis Morgan is at least we do know him, as Craig's saying, and he has played for us before, and Clark knows him. So, you know, he might do that.
Yeah.
I don't think he's played since the Euros, though, has he? Yeah. That'd be strange if we could straight back into some tournament football.
I mean, whereas I think Doig is a good call there, Craig, what you said in place of Hyam. I mean, personally, if I was betting, I'd say it'll be Lennon Miller rather than Lewis Morgan, right? Personally, yeah.
Okay,
and then the
strikers.
And then you got the strikers, okay, and it's even more to Hazel's point about if we didn't experiment now, then are we really going to experiment much come the World Cup? And I'd say the answer is no, right? So I think that Shanklin comes in, right? And and I mean, because Shanklin's played a big part for us. He scores a critical goal, not spectacular, but a critical goal against Denmark. He's obviously playing well, etc., etc. So I say Shanklin comes in. You know, who goes out? I mean, if we're saying what Clark will do rather than what we'd like, okay, I guess it's Findlay Curtis who's going to go out because he's the least established of them. And Clark seems to like Hurst. He seems to like Conway. Dykes and Adams are obviously in. So I suspect Shanklin comes in for Curtis. But,
Shankland's been playing. I mean, he's been playing at Hearts, hasn't he?
Yep.
So I was a bit surprised he wasn't in the squad. But saying that, I was quite well. George Hurst, I thought, had a better game against Cote d'Ivoire. I mean, I don't know if you saw that. Did I send you around that picture? Sorry, everyone. But Dave and I were just sitting right on the goal line, right in the corner flag, weren't we, Dave? And we watched, and literally I got a snapshot of her just missing it, the ball going over the bar. I was like, and I thought it was going in, and I thought, but he was much better, more confident about getting in there. It was just they were really good, and they were defensively good. So, but I think he picked up a lot more this time than he's ever done.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's So and Clark seems to like Conway.
Yeah.
Right? From what we can tell. I mean, Clark singled him out after the Japan game for praise. He brought him on, what was it, for 20 minutes or something against Cote d'Ivoire, 15 minutes against Cote d'Ivoire. So, and whereas Findlay Curtis only got 10 minutes as a sub against Japan, wasn't brought on at all against Cote d'Ivoire. I suspect he's the one who goes, and I think. I mean, you're right that Shankland's been playing, but Shankland wasn't playing much before this international break, was he?
No, he had a knock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So so that kind of would be the justification, if you like.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think he'll be on the plane. As you say, he's not the greatest of goal scorers, but my goodness, when we need a poacher there, isn't he? I mean, let's be honest, and that's sometimes you have to get the job done in a dirty way. So
it's funny, Dave, me and you talk about this all the time, and we've talked about it in the podcast a couple of times as well, that when you're looking at these teams, you've got to look at it as what we would pick and what we'd like to see and what Clark's going to do. Because for these strikers, I think the rest of the team more or less picks itself. But for the strikers, I would just shake the whole thing up. But I know he won't do that. I mean, if you look at some of the figures, these guys, Barney Stewart's got 18 goals in 28 games. Ross Stewart, he's only got 8 this season, but he's on fire at the moment. Bowie's got 10 goals. McBurney's got 14 goals. And he's going to stick with Conway 9, Curtis on 4, Dykes on 5. And you're thinking, why? Why is he sticking with these guys? Why not just take a punt and put Barney Stewart in and see if it works for him in the World Cup? You never know what's going to happen.
So Craig, for fun, right? Because the three of us will all completely agree that Clark's not going to do what you just said, right?
Yeah.
And Clark's going to do probably Dykes, Adams, Hurst, Conway, and probably Shankland, as we just said, right? So let's say we're all nodding our heads. Let's say that's our prediction, but just for fun, okay? Right? So Craig, if you were Mr. Clark now, right? Yeah. Who are your 5 strikers going to be?
My 5 strikers would be Adams, Shankland, Barney Stewart. I think I'd take Bowie, and Dykes would be my number 5.
Right. Yeah.
And I think he'd be lucky to go on.
So Adams and Dykes of the last squad.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. I mean, I like that, what you've just said. I mean, there's no way he's going to do it. And I mean, but it's, I mean, that's also a little bit our frustration before these friendlies, right? That we talked about. So before, when the squad was announced for Japan and Cote d'Ivoire, that, we didn't feel like we were going to learn a lot from some of them. And you might have learned a bit more, for example, if you had Barney Stewart and Bowie and given them a proper go.
He keeps on talking about his own disappointment that he didn't get into the 98 squad. He was in the initial squad. He didn't make the final squad. And I think he's quite bitter about that, and he doesn't want it to happen to anyone else. I think that's why he's so loyal to his players. And he doesn't want anyone to go through that disappointment of having got us to the World Cup and then not actually playing in it. So I think that's why we're going to see very few changes.
But as we all know, sometimes you've got to leave feelings aside, and it's about results.
Yeah.
And you look at national coaches, sometimes you just got to park that, and you want to be historically, 3 tournaments out of 4, and you want to go further in the tournament. You have to bury that and leave that aside, but he is so adjectively stubborn, Clark. He just goes back. Loyalty is the thing over goals, and that's what frustrates me about Clark. I've always backed Clark, even through post Euros and everybody, moaning that he should go and all the rest of it. But then I thought, well, who else are we going to get? Who else is going to step into that position? And I did say to you guys last August that I just felt that we had looked at all our disappointments. We've just, because it is a roller coaster. You hang on for dear life and off you go. But I just felt we had maybe just broken the back on some of it, and luck. We needed some luck at some point, and we did. We got some luck, but again, the Gannon Dokes coming on, that changed. But interestingly, James McFadden, Faddy was sitting behind me on the train on the way down to Liverpool, and we spoke for 40 minutes, him and I, and I said to him, apart from that strike against France, obviously Kenny's beating you on that one now, and he was kind of like, yeah, I know. But I said, but we had this discussion about strikers, and I said to Faddy, what do you think? Are you comfortable with the usual suspects? I mean, and he's like, but Hazel, all the goals come from the midfield with
of course.
strikers, and he said, whilst Dykes is great now and again for his strength, holding up the play, when you're into a World Cup, and sadly I never got there, which I'm quite bitter about, but that's the way it is. But he said, you have to get strikers that are scoring goals. And he said, I don't understand why the likes of Adams and Dykes are still in there. We should be bringing younger players in. Well, we should be trying different. And he was talking about Ollie McBurney, ironically as well. And he just said, we should have been doing this last year during the World Cup qualify. You've got to bring, otherwise you're just going to, we're just going to look almost like the same way we were in the Euros. And we had a chat about Hanley, and then I won't say obviously on the podcast. But let's just say we came out with the same outcome. But saying that, that was the thing that he said, we're so desperate for strikers, and really good strikers and competitive strikers. And he said, you think about it, we've got the World Cup, and then we're going to go a month or two off and straight into Nations League, which sets us up for the next Euros. We can't just keep relying. We have to be bringing in folk that are young to be bringing them in. And we've talked about this last year. We picked Gannon Doak out of under 19s, wasn't he? I think at that point he was playing in the under 19s. And why not put these young guys in? I think Barnett Stewart, he was quite eloquent, and I was quite surprised when he opened his mouth, but then he's living down here, isn't he? But I was quite surprised at being able to understand him. But at university, but I think this guy is great. He's at university, but he's scoring goals, and I think he kind of realised that. He said, "Oh well, I'm under 21, and I'm probably not going to make the World Cup. But it's a dream come true. But in future, if it could happen, I'm thinking it should be happening now. This is all the other national teams, all these young guys. We've seen it with Lamine Yamal. It's we've talked about this last year. All of us, all four of us. But anyway.
Yeah, all the big nations, you quite often have their wonder kids coming through. I know Brazil have won this year. You had Arda Güler in the last Euros. And really, I'd love to see us give it a shot. And, I know Gannon Dokes, obviously, he's no retiree, but it'd be nice, I think, to get Barney Stewart. I wonder how the squad would look. Let's say you change the manager and Carlo Ancelotti come in and he had to pick the team from scratch. I don't think Gunn and Gordon would be anywhere near it. I think Robertson wouldn't be the captain. Hanley wouldn't be anywhere near the squad. I don't think Hurst, Conway, Dykes or Adams would be anywhere near the squad. It would look very, very different.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, though, being practical as well about the squad is, of course, there might be an opportunity for one or two younger players or surprises to come in because of injuries, which is not what we want, right? No. But you just look statistically. 26 players coming towards the end of the season, and it happens almost every tournament to almost every country, so it might be that we've got no choice. You might find that one of those 5 strikers, or even 2 of them that we're talking about, are injured. And then all of a sudden, is it Barney Stewart or Bowie, or who do you bring in? So, so it might be that there's going to be some enforced changes that we don't expect.
You're absolutely right, Dave. Look what happened to Dykes, finished the season.
Yeah.
Started, the training for the Euros and
then was out.
He was out, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally the same page on you on that one.
Yeah.
Can I just ask about formations? I think none of us really saw this coming in the last match where he had the 3 centre-backs again. I thought we'd seen the last of that. But you got the impression it was really just trying to fit Tierney into that team. And that was the only way he could come up with it, because he had so many right-backs in the squad, he couldn't justify putting them over there. He's not going to do it, is he? He's not going to go to that again in the World Cup, is he?
I think that, it wasn't, so the 3 at the back or 5 at the back against Cote d'Ivoire, it wasn't terrible, right? It wasn't awful. And Tierney and Robertson do play well together. You can see, us creating opportunities there. But I'd also say it wasn't brilliant. And given the history, okay, where you look back, we did this in one of our first podcasts, Craig, where we looked at the formations that we played and basically said, while we were playing 5 at the back up to the end of the Euros, we were struggling, right? And then as soon as we changed to basically 4-2-3-1 with a few variations, sometimes it's 4-4-2, we looked miles better. And that was in the Nations League, which fundamentally was pretty good. If you remember, we were in League A, and I know we got relegated in the end, but it was close, right? We had some good results and good performances, like winning in Poland, for example, and so on, right? And then obviously the World Cup qualifying campaign with all of its, ups and downs and bits of luck and stuff. But fundamentally, right, the formation of playing 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2, that worked. Whereas playing 5 at the back didn't work. No. So I'd say, although it wasn't awful, and although we all want to see Tierney in the team and finding a way to make it work, I don't think it was good enough for him now to go against the last 2 years of experience. So I think he'll go back to the 4-2-3-1. And either Tierney will be coming on as a substitute like he did in a lot of the World Cup games, and he can replace Robertson in left back. He can go to right back. He can go other places, as we've discussed. Okay. Or you might see him trying Tierney at right back, even in the World Cup, if Hickey's not available.
Yeah. I totally agree. We just, when I looked at it, when it was a back 5, I was like, I had my head in my hands.
Yeah.
So I said to you, I went 5, and you were like, you nodded, because I just thought this is not us. We don't operate. And I mean, the Denmark game, I think the first Denmark game we played 4-4-2, which was the right thing to play. We all agreed, because they were such a strong team. And then I can't remember, we played 4-4-2 against Denmark last November, or it was 4-2-3-1. But you adjust it in accordance to the team that you're playing, and that is our best formations. That we should stick to that.
That's what I think. Yeah, agreed.
So the experimentation is over. I think, Hazel, the game's coming up now, that there's no more room for learning. It's now just about momentum and results, isn't it? We've got to win these last 2 games. We've got to get some momentum. We've got to score some goals. We've got to go into the World Cup finals feeling that we can put a few past Haiti.
Yeah, and I know we talked about we'd rather have Haiti last and maybe Morocco or Brazil first. But I mean, again, it'll depend on how we perform against Curacao and Bolivia. We had a shaky, friendly against Finland that ended up 2-2 before we went off to the Euros. I don't know if that filled the guys with confidence, or they were thinking goodness, we're playing against Germany in a week's time, and that sort of having to think about that one. But look, I hope that the Curacao game that they get confident, and we are looking at a full squad. There aren't any injuries. I'm sure Clark will be having sleepless nights up until that point, because you just say at that point that's the cut-off point, as Dave mentioned. But Haiti, if we have a really good stab at it, we're organised, we approach those games the way we did with Denmark, and we've got to take that positivity away from the fact that Denmark and Greece were the favourites to go to qualify for the World Cup. We have to use that mindset to take us into the World Cup tournament. We have to. We've done it before, and we can do it again. We just have to have the right people, and if not, like for like, have something sensible. We're going to have lots of water breaks, etc. So I think that's, we have to, if we can set ourselves up for a really good performance against Haiti, then who knows with Morocco. We've done it before. We proved it last year. That's why we're here in the summer. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that, Craig, I mean, it's the answer to your question. Yeah, I mean, it's about momentum now. I agree. So exactly what Hazel said as well. I think, especially against Curacao, we have, we need at least a decent performance, and we need to win, and we need to show that we can score, hopefully more than one goal, but let's get at least a goal, right? And then get some more, I mean, the Bolivia game might be a strange game, I would say, because it's only a week before the start of the World Cup. It's, I don't know what the crowd's really going to be like there for that game as well. It might be feel a bit more like a training game, I would imagine, rather than a real game. I think the Curacao game, though, will feel like a real game. That's still 2 weeks before the start of the World Cup, and it's a home crowd, and it's being billed as the send off and everything. So yeah, we need momentum, and then I mean, of course, Hazel's right. We then need to beat Haiti, and then let's hope.
Wouldn't it be awful if we didn't get anything against Curacao and they get booed off the pitch on the way to the World Cup?
Don't say that.
See it happening.
Don't say that.
I have to say, and to the people that are watching this podcast, I know it's just a small minority. We get that, but do please try and get behind the squad. It's it's not club football. Leave the booing at the turnstiles, please. Because we've waited 28 years. If you don't want to, won't go to the game. Don't go to the game. Watch it at home. That's my message.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one different thing to throw in at this point, Craig, is that I think it was 2 podcasts ago, just before the Japan game, I was complaining or moaning, whatever you want to say, about how the SFA weren't building up much excitement, right? And I was talking about other people that were sending messages about things and saying, this is happening and that's happening and so on. So they did quite a lot around the friendlies. Actually, there was quite a few messages, not only about the games, but about other things to do with the World Cup and everything. So, to give them their due, right? And I'd say honestly, they did quite a good job, I would say, around the friendlies, and just in building a bit of interest, and and talking about the World Cup, and it's only whatever it was I said, where it was 10 weeks to go, and I think now it's obviously now it's like 8 weeks or whatever, 9 weeks. So that was good that they did that. I'm also pleased that finally the Bolivia friendly, or the final friendly, was announced, because that was really, really slow, and obviously a bit kind of frustrating for a lot of people, where you didn't know if who it was going to be. Was it going to be Peru? Was it going to be Venezuela? Was it going to be Bolivia? FD kept saying it's going to be June the 6th in New Jersey, but it's tough for people to book travel and commit until they actually know for sure. And we're always told not to until we actually know that it is happening. So, obviously that was good news as well. So, I just say again, I really hope the SFA keep doing that kind of thing. Now it really is like, 2 months to go now. In 2 months' time, a lot of us will be over there. So let's hope they do really try and, build a bit more momentum, a bit more interest, a bit more excitement.
I think there's definitely someone at the SFA who listens to the pod, Dave, because that's a few times that you've done this. You're going on about they need more social media presence. It happened the next day. We were saying we needed a singing section. That happened in the next campaign. Yeah. And you had to go to the currywurst pie and they took it off the menu.
And they took it off the menu, exactly. No, that's probably my biggest contribution, Craig. I love pies and I love currywurst, but somehow the combination didn't work.
I think it was the food poisoning that I kept hearing stories about from people in the WhatsApp chat. So well done to Mike Morani and his team. But please, Mike, sort out your catering staff. We're heading towards Euro 2028. If you can listen to us, you need to sort out the catering. 35 minutes waiting for a cup of tea in a cold day at Hampden is not for the faint-hearted, I can tell you.
Oh, I tell you, I don't want to get started on this topic, but how good was that Hill Dickinson Stadium? Imagine that for a Scottish National Stadium. And again, Hazel, how quickly was that to get served for food?
It burnt my hands off because the teas were so hot because I hadn't been waiting for so long. I was back at my seat, and Dave sadly Dave had to move and hold my tea and everything for me as I got my coat on. But yeah, no, it was wonderful.
That's good. Yeah,
it was, and I missed out on the donuts. I have no idea where they were.
Yeah,
I searched out, but I think they might have disappeared. But it was wonderful. It was exciting. My dad couldn't believe it. Even the toilets, in out, and then got your tea and back in your seat before the next half. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it's a really good stadium. Completely agree. Yeah. It was a really good experience. The
only thing I would say was the walk back and that little that bit where everybody got squeezed.
Yeah, it was a crush there.
It was a crush. Yeah, they haven't thought that one through. But anyway, but I would take that over Hampden waiting 35 minutes on a cup of Bovril or tea. Let's put it that way.
Right. On that note, should we wind it up there?
Yeah, because otherwise we're in danger of starting to start talking and worrying about the logistics for the Boston and Miami stadiums and how we're getting there and the bottlenecks and the traffic and the trains and everything, which we can do another time. All right.
We'll save that for the Curaçao game.
Aye, good. All right.
You two will, but I'm in Providence, so
you'll be joining us. Don't worry about
that. Yeah. All right.
Right. Thanks, gang. I'll come back and wrap this up.
Thanks very much. Okay. Cheers.
Bye.
Okay, that's us for another show. Now, there are quite a lot of people who are watching it and listening who still haven't subscribed, so if you could do that, that'd be great. We'd really appreciate it. And also, why not drop us a message on one of our socials, on YouTube, on Spotify, on our X page. We've had some great discussions over there in the last few weeks with people, and that is why Russell McLean is this week's £20 ball bags voucher winner. He was engaging with us on YouTube, and that £20 ball bag voucher will be making its way to you tonight, Russell. So thank you very much. We will be back before the Curaçao game and a build-up for that one, and what is an absolute must-win game for us before the World Cup. Hopefully we'll get a couple of goals and that game, something to celebrate. So until then, come on Scotland!
We know we ain't no football experts, but we all feel the same about the beautiful game. The game, no Scotland, no party.